What's your childhood mystery that you finally solved years later? I've always wanted to know what was behind the ATMs at a bank. How it worked and where did the money come from. I grew up and worked at a bank just to find out some fat dude had to squeeze behind the ATMs to refill it. Me. Eventually we all grow up to be the fat dude that resolves our mystery. I figured out my dad wasn't on a business trip in 2005. He was at my uncle's wedding and didn't want to take me all the way there because it was in Ireland and he knew I'd want to go if he told me. In hindsight, I probably should have picked up on the lie. My dad is a school custodian. That last sentence makes this story. There was a seminar on how to remove hardened toilet paper from the walls. One evening when camping, my brother caught a fish that we decided to keep alive in the cooler for some reason. Well, the next morning we ran out to see the fish and it had grown like 5 inches. We were so excited and didn't know how the fish grew that much overnight. Last year we brought it up and my dad said that he had got up that morning and seen the fish being taken by a raccoon and that he spent the next hour or so frantically fishing for another one. He said he caught the new fish, the first one he was able to catch, just a few minutes before we got up. I had never questioned that the fish growing that much as I grew up, but after hearing what really happened I did feel like we probably should have wondered about that more. Your dad loves you so much. Who ate all the cherries in the cherry cake? I was blamed for this 4 years after someone picked out all of the cherries and ate them during a family Christmas party. 8 years later my little sister confessed to me that it had been her. That total brioche. In due time this will have more likes. When I was 10 my godfather gave me $20 as a Christmas gift. At the end of the dinner the money had disappeared. 4 years my parents blamed me for being irresponsible with my money. Years later we figured out, after she was caught stealing stuff from my aunt's house, that my cousin's fiance at the time is a kleptomaniac. Turns out she was the one that stole the money. Stealing Christmas money from a child? Yikes. Total yikes, but kleptomania, if he actually had it and wasn't just an asshole, is a compulsion that needs therapy to be dealt with. Like most alcoholics can't just stop drinking. Apostrophe. When I was a kid in the 70s my parents worked in Canada's Arctic, but were from Nova Scotia. I had a pet mouse, Pixie. Pixie died the night before our family flew home to Nova Scotia for summer vacation. It was many years later before I realized that probably wasn't a sad coincidence. They bumped Pixie off her cement shoes in the river. Pixie sleeps with the fishes now. I have these pale white flecks in the center of my front teeth. Adult set. Everybody I meet, upon seeing my smile for the first time up close, remark on it. I found out about 2 years ago that it's caused by consuming above a certain amount of fluoride before your adult teeth set in. It's called dental fluorosis. As a kid, I used to swallow toothpaste rather than spit it out. Plus our water is fluoridated. So I suppose that's how I got to consuming that much fluoride. When I was really young, me and my siblings would play in my grandparents' yard. My grandfather would tell us to stay away from the skunk hole at the edge of the yard. We lived in South Texas so this wasn't something out of the ordinary, and we just avoided it like any other animal home. Years later it dawned on me, it was actually the septic tank access. I feel like as a kid I would have been more curious about a skunk hole than a septic tank. Just me, unless they got sprayed once before. I met my wife in college, and when we were dating she often mentioned that when she was a kid she had a play doctor's kit that was stolen from her house. She had some surgeries really young, and so her parents bought it for her to demystify the doctor's office. She'd use it all the time on her dad poking and prodding him. One day I asked her about the robbery. Did they take everything? Jewelry? The TV? Other valuables? No, and no. It hit me. I asked, so someone broke into your house and only stole your doctor's kit, leaving anything worth fencing there? Yeah. Why? Did you ever consider your folks were tired of you using the kit on them all the time after you got better? Oh, damn. We confirmed it with her dad later, but for 15 years she had believed some thief broke in and only stole her beloved doctor's kit. Edit. Spelling. I love this. Sometimes it really just takes an outside perspective to see it. Also good practice to get a second opinion. I had meningitis when I was 2 years old. And my baby brother had it also and he died. I had the viral form. He had the bacterial form. I grew up thinking I had it first and always felt like I gave it to him and was the reason he died. I know, but you can't help what you think, especially when you're a kid. It wasn't until I was an adult that I learned that he actually had it before me. I don't know why no one had ever told me that before, except maybe they didn't, because they weren't aware that I always harbored this guilt about it since I kept everything inside. Not one person had ever mentioned to me that he had died before I got it, or maybe I was in the hospital when he died. That part still isn't clear to me. I was in the hospital for about 3 weeks, so it could have been before or during my hospital stay. Death is a hard subject for a lot of people, never mind having that talk with a child. Plus your parents had the added stress that you were still ill and they just lost a child. Rational thinking takes a backseat in times of trauma. It's too bad they never spoke of it as you got older. Maybe the pain was still too great. I can't imagine ever fully healing from that. I'm so sorry that you carried that with you. I can't imagine how you were able to handle something so heavy as a kiddo. Thanks for the kind words. Carrying the guilt honestly wasn't even the worst part of my childhood. But it definitely wasn't the best either. My parents divorced when I was super young. So young I can't even remember them being together. And strangely, my dad really never talked about my brother who died. So I only heard about him through my mom and other siblings. I was watching Star Trek TNG with my dad when someone told Riker to wash his back. When I asked my father why someone would say that to another person, he said so you can smell someone coming up behind you. It wasn't until years later that I understood how easy it was to hear watchers wash, and how committed my dad was to willfully deceiving his children for personal satisfaction. As a P.S. here, my brother and I were convinced that he spoke Spanish until we were teenagers. He did not. He simply rattled off a string of Taco Bell items as fast as he could. Haha. My parents were the same. They taught me a lot of made up words, especially for food items. I'm still realizing at almost 30 that there are made up words I'm still using, haha. My mom used to call us in for dinner by yelling out the back door from the kitchen. I was in middle school before I realized the screen door was actually called a screen door. This one is hands down my favorite. I'm calling the screen door to my back porch a scream door from now on. I used to go to our local YMCA after school, and during the summer, when I was a kid, we went swimming in the pool almost every day, and being the curious kid I was, I always wondered what was behind the caution doors with the weird triangle markings. Fast forward 8 years and I'm now working at that YMCA as a lifeguard, and behind the doors, old, smelly pool chemical testing rooms. Very anticlimactic. Kids probably thought something cool was inside. That's where they keep the kids that couldn't swim. In kindergarten I had a guinea pig that turned into many guinea pigs after I babysat the CL but guinea pig for Christmas break. Parents were thrilled. Anyway, my teacher took the entire family back to her house and was supposed to sell them, and I would get my original guinea pig back. They never returned, and my parents told me they all got sold together as one big happy family. I didn't find out until I was maybe 25 that a coyote actually got into the cage and they all got eaten together as one big happy family. This is the way. When I was a kid we had a pet bird. One time we went away for a weekend and left it with friends to mind, and their cat knocked over the cage and it got out and flew away. Years later I was like, wait, their cat definitely killed our bird and mum didn't tell us. I brought it up with mum, and you could see realization dawn on her face and she said, you know what, maybe you're right. So, yeah, my mum didn't lie about it, but it's possible our friends did, or maybe he got away after all. I solved a family mystery for my mom. I wasn't allowed to play console video games during the week all the way until I was 18, but some nights I'd really be craving it, so I would noiselessly creep through my house into my basement where I could play video games in peace. But once every 30 times or so one of my parents would need something from the basement and he'd quickly turn off the TV monitor, hide in the guest room and pray they didn't turn on a light or notice this box was on. One night I ducked into the guest room and hid behind the bed. To my horror, my mom followed me into the room and turned on the lights. I was panicking, so when she started digging through the closet with her back to me, I made a run for it. I nearly brushed her shirt, and if she'd seen me it'd probably have given her a heart attack. But I made it and kept going all the way to bed. About 5 years went by and my mom said something like, "You're such a quiet walker," and I told her it was because of my basement trips, thinking I had nothing to lose. My mom's face went kinda solemn, and when I explained she said, "So there really was someone down there?" And she explained that she remembered that exact night and the feeling that there was a ghost in the room. Over the next couple days she'd stare into space and just say, "I can't believe you were really there." She seemed to get over it, but she probably checks empty rooms closer now. Lol. Of all the ways to traumatize your parents. When I was 4, I vividly remember getting into my mom's car and her telling me that our cat had died. She told me how she rushed him to the vet and he was shedding fur. Something was seriously wrong. Despite her best efforts, he died. I never knew why he died and why it happened so suddenly, but I accepted that it happened. Fast forward about 15 years. I'm home from college for Christmas. On Christmas Eve, I'm out driving to the store with my dad and uncle. They are talking about the cat my parents got for Christmas one year. The cat mentioned above. My dad says, "Yeah, that thing was too aggressive. So I took it to a farm and gave it away." Normally, when the family pet dies, the parents lie to the kid and say it went to a farm upstate somewhere to ease the burden. Not my parents. They told me the horrifying truth even though it wasn't, true. This twist made me laugh. I imagine your dad taking it to a farm, letting it out, and off the cat goes to play with new animal friends in the barn. He tells your mom, and she decides to just go with it. Died. I remember there was a time where I had to start asking to go play in the backyard when I was about 6 to 7, maybe 8, with my siblings, so she could supervise us. We never had to do this previously, so my siblings and I were very confused. And anytime we didn't ask, she got us in big trouble. Turns out the neighbors were harboring a known pedophile in their house. And that's why mom got so upset with us going outside without asking. I grew up directly across the street from an elementary school and never worried or knew about it. My friend lived out in the country next to a sex offender, which I learned recently from his mother. And that explains why we couldn't ever go out and explore alone. Another reason why I daily regard her as my other mother. The random claps at midnight in my house weren't from ghosts. And weren't claps either. Yeah. For me it wasn't really ghosts inside my closet that would rattle my mirrored closet doors. Freaked me out that as soon as my dad would come to check on me after I started screaming for help, the rattles would stop. Dad would leave. Rattling would start again. I lived in fear of those damn ghosts. Are you telling me that every ghost story in recorded history was a parent just trying to get some action? How Santa Claus made the peppermint fall through the ceiling. I quickly discovered Santa wasn't real when I was a kid, but I was certain that the Dutch version, Santa Claus, was real because in December, peppermint, tiny Dutch cookies, would suddenly rain down on me, and I thought Santa Claus was on the roof dropping it through the ceiling. I was so convinced about this that I bragged to the kids in my CL but that my Santa was real and theirs was fake. But the Dutch Santa only visits Dutch kids in America. Apparently my mom would carry handfuls of peppermint in her pockets, and when I wasn't expecting it, she would throw it up in the air above me. I don't know how I didn't realize what was going on at the time. The first year I was in on the secret and I watched my mom throw peppermint on my brother, it seemed so obvious. I'm from the US, but lived in Holland for 4 years as a kid. They used to dress my brother up as Santa Claus and me as Black Pete, in full blackface, and go to my dad's work to hand out candy. What a random memory I never thought I'd get to revisit. Thanks for your comment. Wow, that's wild. And of course now they are doing the colorful Pete's instead, so future kids won't have that specific memory, lol. For over 20 years I had a very distinct memory of seeing this movie with my dad around the holidays in our living room. It was a black and white movie, but I had a vivid memory of only this one specific scene. Elle was probably about 6 or 7 when I watched it with him. It bugged me for the longest time. I would think about it periodically for years because I remembered it being so cool. I just wanted to know what movie it was so I could check it out as an adult. Then one day, I can't even remember where, but someone online somewhere had described this movie and mentioned the name, and it sounded really similar to the one I remembered. I looked it up on YouTube and it turns out the movie was Babes in Toyland / March of the Wooden Soldiers. The scene I remembered so vividly was all of the soldiers marching out of the toy shop. Figuring this out was literally one of the most satisfying things I've ever felt in my life. It's our family tradition to watch it every Thanksgiving. It's always on TV around that time. Crazy that you haven't stumbled across it for that long. Yeah, I really had no idea, and I just never bothered to ask my dad. I didn't realize it was such a popular movie. I figured he wouldn't even remember what I was talking about. The first time I finally got to watch it again I was stoked lol. The reason my aunt punched her husband at the pool during a huge family vacation. It was because she found out that the long distance charges to the hotel room they shared had a ton of calls to a woman he was known to think was swell. Good golly. Such language. In front of the children. In preschool I had a substitute teacher who had a long pinky nail. I asked him how come, and he told me it just grows faster. Years later I realized. I'm curious but maybe I don't want to know. Why? Coke nail. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.